Discover how a single dad's hidden past helped rescue a CEO, transforming their lives in 30 days. In a small town just outside Chicago, Jack's world revolved around his spirited daughter, Lily. Life had thrown him curveballs, but giving her a better life was his mission. Jack worked 2 exhausting jobs, his days spent stacking shelves at the local grocery store and his nights buzzing around a bustling diner. He could feel that struggle deep in his bones. Yet there was something pure about the way he lit up when Lily laughed or shared her dreams of being an artist. Every shift turned into a blur of smiles and small kindnesses. The regulars adored him. His presence was a warm hug on a chilly day. Jack often wished he could do more for Lily. As she approached 15, her creative spirit soared, and he feared that their modest home couldn't possibly contain the dreams bubbling inside her. Every time she sketched, her fingers covered in charcoal, her eyes alight with possibility, he felt the weight of past failures tugging at him. Memories of the father he had wanted to be but couldn't. It stung, but he pressed on, hoping against hope. One fateful day, as fate would have it, Maria, a highly successful CEO, cruised through the town, her mind tangled in corporate chaos. The crisis swirling at her consulting firm clung to her like a shadow, pulling her deeper into a life polished yet void of heart. Stepping into the cafe, she never anticipated having to slam the brakes due to a flat tire. But sometimes life has its way of nudging you off your path. Once inside the diner, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon enveloped her. Jack glanced up, and their eyes locked. For the briefest moment, something profound passed between them. He smiled, effortlessly inviting. Maria felt a flicker of warmth she hadn't known in years. Their conversation flowed easily, Jack's easy laughter shattering her carefully constructed walls. And then my daughter, Jack's voice faltered. She has this dream, you know? I just want to see her thrive. His gaze turned wistful. Maria listened, captivated, as he spoke of his past as a war veteran's stories of camaraderie, brave sacrifices, and the pain of loss. It ignited something she thought long buried. Here was a man, stripped of his titles, who carved a life of meaning from the shadows. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as their connection was deepening, a whisper of a scandal erupted around Jack. Rumors danced on the air, seeping through the small community like poison, threatening everything he had built. Maria found herself torn. Could she stand by him, help him fight the tide rising against his reputation? As they both wrestled with their choices, Jack fiercely protective of the life he forged for Lily, and Maria caught in the throes of corporate ambition, they unknowingly stepped into a storm. What began as a chance encounter was morphing into a profound friendship, awakening emotions neither of them knew they were missing. Would they endure the tumultuous waves, and would that connection redefine their lives? Striding forward, uncertainty loomed, yet glimmered with the hope of a new beginning. What choices would Jack and Maria make? The next chapter awaited, filled with challenges, revelations, and perhaps the answer to what truly defines success. Jack sat at the diner's empty counter late that evening, still replaying his conversation with Maria in his mind. The warm glow of the diner's neon lights cast soft shadows across the linoleum, and he rested his head on his arms, fighting back exhaustion. Lily was at home, tucked under her blanket, sketching away in the dim yellow light of her room. He could only hope she was dreaming of the bright future she deserved. But now, a storm brewed around him, a whirlwind of gossip threatening to shatter the fragile bubble he had worked so hard to create. The whispers about his past had reached the small town like an unchecked wildfire. Just hours ago, an older woman from the grocery store had approached him with a concerned expression, eyes filled with pity. "Jack, honey," she had said, her voice low and tinged with disbelief. "People are talking. They say you aren't who you say you are." He had forced a smile, but inside he felt the ground shift beneath him. Those words echoed, and his heart raced. Could one person's moment of weakness unravel everything he cared about? He had fought demons of his own, ones that weren't ready to reveal their faces again. He glanced outside at the night sky. The corner of his mouth curled into a grim smile. Little did the town know, the shame he carried was a badge of survival, one he had woven through heartbreak and turmoil into the tapestry of his life. It had made him who he was. But would it be enough to fend off the whispers? Just then, the bell above the diner door jingled, and Maria stepped in, looking more composed than earlier, but with a hint of worry lingering in her eyes. She spotted him right away and made her way to where he sat, her heels clicking against the floor. "Hey," she began, a softness in her voice that immediately soothed his frayed nerves. "I heard what happened." Jack straightened and forced himself to meet her gaze. "It's not what you think. It's just before you defend yourself," she interrupted, her hand gently reaching across the counter. "I want you to know that I believe in you. I see the good in you." His heart leapt in his chest. In a world filled with judgment, her faith felt like a lifeline. "Maria?" She stood a little taller, extending a new warmth. "I've dealt with misleading rumors in my career," she admitted. "I know the consequences, but I also know the power of standing beside someone you trust. Let me help you." Jack's resolve faltered. Could he let her in? Could he trust her with the fragments of his past? Just then, thoughts of Lily flickered across his mind. He had built a wall around his heart. But what if he allowed Maria to see both the shattered pieces and the hope he held for his daughter? "Please, can we talk?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," she replied, her expression filled with determination. They settled into a booth at the back, a small table illuminated only by the soft glow from a nearby lamp. Jack shared everything: the fear of his past surfacing, the devastation of being labeled a liar in a world where truth felt like a fragile promise. With each word, the burden lifted a little, and he saw Maria nodding. In her eyes, there was understanding, a connection that rooted them together as they talked. Another wave of uncertainty brushed against Jack's resolve. Could he let his vulnerability bleed into this growing bond? The storms outside seemed minor compared to the turmoil of his heart. Hours passed, and with the diner clock nearing midnight, Jack finally breathed out. "What if it all comes crashing down? What if they don't forgive me?" Maria reached across the table, her fingers brushing against his. "Then we face it together. Because what matters is who you are now, Jack, not what you were." As Jack looked into her eyes, he felt a flicker of hope, a possibility of redemption. But outside, the storm raged on, and he knew that the price of connection could lead to heartbreak. What lay ahead could shift everything they had started to build. With anxiety surging through him, he pondered the next steps. Would they weather the storm together, or would the weight of his past crush their fragile friendship? Tomorrow loomed, and with it, the potential for chaos or change. Jack could only hold on to hope, bracing for whatever might come next. Would he be strong enough to face the truth, and would Maria stand by him as the world watched? The next morning, Jack awoke to a sun-drenched bedroom that felt almost foreign. The light poured through the window, chasing away the shadows that had collected in his mind. Yet, even as warmth enveloped him, the anxiety of the day pressed heavily on his chest. Today was the day the town would decide his fate, and certainty felt like a distant dream. Lily was already awake when he emerged from his room, her sketchbook spread out on the kitchen table, filled with bright colors and wild illustrations. She glanced up, her face lighting up with a smile that ignited a flicker of hope within him. "Good morning, Dad. Look at this," she exclaimed, pointing to a vibrant drawing of a shimmering sun. "It's beautiful, kiddo," he replied, his voice softening. She always had a way of pulling him out of his darkest thoughts. Her innocence reminded him that, no matter what others said, she believed in him as much as Maria did. But soon, as they ate breakfast together, the looming anxiety returned. The radio played softly in the background, a local news report slinking into their thoughts. In other news, the town is buzzing with speculation about Jack Wright, the new mechanic at Bill's garage. First impressions count, folks, and you can bet they're keeping a close eye on him. Jack dropped his fork as the words hit him like a punch to the gut. Lily looked alarmed. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm fine," he forced, searching for a reassuring smile. "Just got lost in thought, that's all." But as Lily returned to her drawing, The sound of her pencil against paper reminded him of the chaos brewing outside their cozy kitchen. After breakfast, he walked her to school, determined to put on a brave face. She skipped alongside him, blissfully unaware of the storm clouds hovering over her father. As they reached the school gates, she turned to him, her big brown eyes filled with trust. "You'll be okay, right?" "I'll be great," he replied, even as doubt gnawed at him from within. He watched her walk through the doors, her little frame disappearing into the bustling crowd. With a deep breath, Jack headed to the garage. Every step felt heavier than the last. The colorful gossip that clung to his name buzzed louder, echoing in his mind. He braced himself for the judgment that awaited him, but made a resolve to stand firm in his truth. He could bear this weight if it meant protecting Lily from more pain. As Jack rounded the corner to the garage, Maria appeared oddly present in his thoughts. He had hoped to draw strength from her belief in him. But would her support hold under the scrutiny of the townsfolk? The morning had already spun out of control, and he knew one whisper could ignite another round of accusations. When he entered the garage, the sound of tools clanging and engines revving filled the air. It felt right, grounding him. As his hands grasped the familiar shapes of wrenches and sockets, he fought to steady his breathing. "Hey, Jack," Bill called from across the workspace. "Ready for another day?" "Yeah, ready as I'll ever be," he muttered, not fully seeing the other man's face as he nodded. Then, he glimpsed a group of locals gathered at the far end, murmurs swirling like whirlwinds. Feeling their eyes on him, he steeled himself. Then, heavily, the door swung open, and in walked a figure encased in a striking business suit. The chatter silenced. It was Maria, her presence commanding attention, draped in a certain confidence that caught everyone off guard. "Excuse me, folks," she called, not breaking stride toward Jack. "I need to have a word with Jack." The air thickened around them as everyone turned, a mix of curiosity and surprise in their expressions. Jack's heart raced. What on earth was she doing here? Did she really dare stand up for him like this, amidst the whispering crowd? "Maria, you don't have to," he began, but she cut him off with a firm gaze. "No, let me." Her voice was steady and filled with a determination that seemed to cradle him. She moved closer, clearly there to back him up. "There's something important we need to discuss." Jack felt the world hold its breath. Everything was on a precipice now. Would she reveal his secrets? Or would this be the moment they crafted their own narrative, together? As the eyes of the town fixed on them, he realized that with Maria by his side, maybe they could face the storm head-on. But the weight of their futures has passed, and its echo loomed large. Would they find strength in unity, or would the fear of the unknown rip them apart? No turning back now. Maria cleared her throat, her gaze unwavering as she stood before Jack. The tension in the garage felt palpable, a tightrope strung between hope and anxiety. "What I'm about to say is for everyone here and those who have already made assumptions about Jack," she addressed the group, her voice strong and confident. Jack felt the weight of the moment. The murmurs quieted down, and he could hear the gears in the minds of bystanders turning. He held his breath, uncertain how the truth would reshape their perceptions. "Jack Wright is more than just the new mechanic," Maria continued, glancing briefly at Jack before locking eyes with the crowd. "He is a father, a hard-working man with a history that deserves respect, not scorn. I've seen him fight battles that most of you can only imagine." The crowd shifted, some faces softening, others remaining skeptical. "You don't know what you're talking about," someone shouted from the back. Jack's heart sank as the words echoed around him. "Actually, I do," Maria replied, still holding her ground. "After losing my father, Jack stepped in to make things easier for me and my family. It wasn't easy for him. He has fought for every inch of his life, and I can tell you why." Jack's pulse raced. She was revealing too much. He wanted to pull her aside, but another part of him trusted her completely. Could she really handle what was about to unfold? Jack faced losses that changed him, but he has rebuilt himself. He has a daughter, and that's what drives him now to give her a life that he didn't have, she said passionately. There it was. The truth surrounding his past, laid bare. He felt vulnerable, yet empowered. Behind him, Bill watched silently, his expression unreadable. He glanced at the other mechanics, noticing that while some appeared judgmental, others were listening. "I believe we should look at the man standing before us, not just the rumors swirling around him," Maria finished. Let us not forget we all have stories. Let us give Jack a chance to show us who he really is. The crowd hesitated, caught in a web of raw emotion. Jack's chest tightened as Maria stepped back, giving him the floor. He took a deep breath, feeling like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump. He started, but the lump in his throat caught him off guard. Just be yourself, Jack, Maria whispered. As if sensing his struggle, he swallowed hard, and the words tumbled out. I know I'm new here. I know my past isn't perfect, but I'm trying. I'm trying for Lily. And you know what? Every time I see her smile, it makes all the pain worth it. Some in the crowd softened their stares, while others remained stony-faced. Jack felt the flicker of hope igniting again. Maybe there was a route through this that as he spoke, he felt a connection with the townsfolk. Strangers, neighbors, people who also carried burdens they couldn't show. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to build a life here for my daughter and for myself. Maria smiled at him, the reassuring warmth of her confidence flowing into him. A murmur rippled through the crowd, this time fueled by curiosity rather than suspicion. He took another step, embracing the chance to redefine what it meant to be Jack Wright in this town. But it was too soon to celebrate. The air remained thick with uncertainty. People were coming around, but would they truly accept him? Or would they dig deeper, searching for weaknesses in his story? And what about the whispers he had heard since moving here? Before he could ponder further, a voice cut through the noise, a harsh reminder of the scrutiny still looming. What about your past, Jack? When will we know the truth? The crowd shifted again, and Jack knew they weren't done. The trial wasn't over, it had only just begun. He locked eyes with Maria, ready to face whatever came next together. But would they both be prepared for the fallout? With the crowd hanging on a knife's edge, nothing felt certain anymore. Jack inhaled sharply, feeling the air grow heavy with expectation. He had opened his heart, but the shadows of his past still loomed over him, threatening to pull him back to a place he had fought hard to escape. The harsh voice from the crowd now hung around him like smoke, stubborn and suffocating. What about your past, Jack? When will we know the truth? The murmurs returned, rising and falling like waves. Jack's heart raced as he scanned the crowd, desperately searching for the supportive faces he had hoped would shine brighter now. Could he truly stand there and dissect the darkest moments of his life in front of these people? He took another breath, steeling himself. I can't change the past, he started, his voice steadying as he looked at Maria, her eyes encouraging him. But I can share it. I want to be honest with you all. There are parts of my story that are hard to talk about, even now. Tentatively, he began, recalling the bitter nights when he cradled the weight of the world in his hands, his solitude a constant companion. I lost my wife when my daughter was just a baby. It shattered me. I struggled with addiction, trying to numb the pain. I lost myself. A quiet fell over the crowd. Jack could almost hear the heartbeat of those who were listening. But for Lily, I fought back. I got help. I wanted to be the father she deserved. I wanted to be stronger, not just for her, but for myself. A few people in the crowd exchanged glances, some nodding slightly, as if connecting the dots of his narrative. I'm not proud of my past. It's like a chain that I carry, but I'm learning to live with it. Bill, still silent, showed no emotion, yet Jack couldn't help but wonder what he thought, what the other mechanics were feeling. Would they see him as a man attempting to rise, or would they only see the stains of his past? I got involved in this community because I saw the hope it held. I wanted to be a part of something greater, something that guided people through their struggles, just like I needed help to rise out of mine. As Jack spoke, Maria's expression revealed a quiet determination, her forceful belief in him weaving through the atmosphere like an invisible thread. Her anchor had steadied him, and he drew strength from her. But the voice that had sliced through his moment of vulnerability was back. And what if we give you that chance and find you're not who you say? What if you let us down? The skepticism hung thick, drawing a reaction from the crowd too. Questions bubbled beneath the surface. Jack felt it, a wave of scrutiny dissolving the tentative trust he'd begun to build. I can't promise I won't make mistakes. I'm still learning. We all are, he gestured at the people in the garage, friends in the making, beneath the noise and judgment. But if you give me a chance, maybe together we can learn to be better. Not just for ourselves, but for our families. Because we are all looking for acceptance, aren't we? An unexpected silence enveloped them. Could these words cut through their doubts? Yeah, we're all looking for acceptance, a mechanic quietly agreed, shifting in his stance. Jack's heart lifted slightly. Maybe their shared humanity was beginning to breach the walls of history, fear, and regret. The crowd began to murmur, some voices blending, others separating in frustration and hope. Jack could feel a shift, but uncertainty lingered like a shadow. Just then, Maria stepped forward again, her voice calm and grounding. Let us not judge him by who he was, but who he wants to be. That's what community is about, helping each other grow. Jack's heart swelled. For a moment, he let that warmth wrap around him. But as murmurs intensified again, he couldn't shake the feeling that another storm was brewing. What else might come to light? And would it draw people closer to him, or push them away for good? As he looked into the crowd, searching for confirmation in their expressions, the air crackled with tension. A voice in the back of his mind whispered the truth he tried to avoid. The battle for acceptance was far from over. Jack glanced at his daughter's picture, nestled in his pocket. He needed to fight for her. But how could he do that when he felt so exposed? Would the next blow shatter everything he had just built? Jack felt the weight of the silence in the air as he stood at the center of the crowd. Their eyes, once filled with skepticism, were now a patchwork of emotions: curiosity, sympathy, and a hint of hope. But that hope was fragile, like a glass figurine balanced on the edge of a table. What if we're all just as flawed? He thought, the idea penetrating the thick tension. What if every one of them, behind the surface of their work clothes and tough exteriors, was carrying their own burdens? As he continued to lock eyes with the mechanics, he shared his truth. The mistake we often make is hiding our pasts, thinking they define us. But they don't. They teach us. I learned that it's not what happens to you that matters, but how you choose to deal with it. The murmurs turned into a low buzz, people nodding as they processed his words. Jack, fueled by a surge of courage, pressed on. I'm not here to take advantage of you. I'm here to help. You've got my commitment. I want to be a part of this family, sharing not just the good times, but supporting each other through the hard ones. Bill was still in the background, his arms crossed. Jack's heart sank for a moment. He was the one person Jack wanted to win over the most. But he also understood that trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. Then out of the crowd came a voice, unbothered by the lingering doubt. You've been through hell, Jack. We all have our demons. So what do? Just sit in silence, afraid of judgment? The speaker, a young mechanic with a scruffy beard, stepped forward, a spark igniting in his eyes. Jack nodded, feeling the ripple spreading. Exactly. We could be stronger together. None of us have to carry our burdens alone. For a moment, Jack saw acknowledgement reflected in their faces. It was the tiniest glimmer, just a flicker of acceptance, but it was enough to feel like he was making headway, like he could finally take a breath without the weight of judgment pressing down on him. Then, someone else broke through the din. But what happens when we inevitably mess up? How do we come back from that? Jack faced this new challenge head-on. We learn. We forgive. We stand back up. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. Suddenly it felt like a kind of understanding was growing amongst them, a bond forming from shared struggles. Jack could see a few nodding in agreement, others whispering to those next to them. He allowed himself a moment to hope, believing they might finally be finding their common ground. Yet just as things began to feel lighter, a voice erupted again from the back, harsher than before. And what if you hurt us again? What if you go back to who you were? This time, Jack took a moment before responding. He chose his words with care. If I fall, I promise I'll be the first to admit it. Because hiding is what got me in trouble before. I refuse to let fear dictate my actions again. I'm asking you to meet me halfway. Let us take those steps together. The crowd shifted, eyes darting amongst one another. Jack felt that small flame of hope dim again. What if this leap of faith ended up being one more misstep? Maria stood beside him, her presence a steadying force. Every day is a chance to be better, she reminded him softly, squeezing his hand. We rise together or we fall apart. Jack took a breath, grounding himself in that moment. It wasn't a perfect solution, but perhaps it was a path worth taking. And then, just like that, the room felt alive with possibility. Even amidst lingering doubts, he could feel it. Change was in the air, waiting to strike and become something beautiful. But would it take a single event or a single person to ignite that transformation? Jack could feel the crowd holding its collective breath, waiting for the next move. And he understood then, with clarity, that acceptance isn't given freely. It is fought for. What was he willing to sacrifice to earn it? Jack scanned the room, every face telling a different story. The flickering lights above cast shadows that mirrored the uncertainty hanging in the air. He drew in a deep breath, feeling the weight of their hope and doubt pressing against him. "Listen," he said, his voice steadier now. "I know trust is fragile. I've been someone who shattered it before. But I'm not here to make promises I can't keep. I'm here to show you that even broken people can find redemption." The crowd shifted again. Some leaned in, intrigued. Others held back, their skepticism hanging like a cloud. Jack felt like he was teetering at the edge of a cliff. One wrong word could send everything tumbling down. "Doesn't it get exhausting?" The mechanic with the scruffy beard asked, his voice louder now. "Pretending we're fine, that everything's okay when it's not?" Jack's heart beat harder in his chest. "Yes, it does. And that's why we have to stop pretending." The words came out strong and fierce. "We have to face our realities together. It's time we stop standing alone in silence." There was a visible shift. Conversations murmured like leaves in the wind. People connected with each other, some even exchanging determined looks. He could feel a current of energy pulsing through the crowd. Perhaps this was the first step toward healing. "Let us start something here," Jack suggested, energy building in his voice. "A group. A space where we can share our struggles and victories, no judgment, just support. A chance to rebuild, one step at a time. A safety net." A few voices spoke up. "What would that look like? How would it work?" "It starts with honesty." Jack paused, his gaze settling on Bill. The man hadn't moved an inch, but Jack had hoped that something was shifting behind those guarded eyes. "We can't fix what we don't face. If we meet here once a week, just to talk and listen, it could become something real. Something powerful." Bill unfolded his arms just slightly. Jack caught the subtle motion and felt a surge of hope. Another mechanic, a woman with a ponytail, chimed in, "I've been hiding for too long. If we can trust each other." Her words trailed off, leaving an echo of possibility hanging in the air. Jack seized the moment. "Exactly. We start trusting one another with our stories. It'll be raw, it'll be messy, but it'll be worth it. Together we can tackle our burdens. It might not erase the past, but we can shape our futures together stronger than we ever were alone." Hope sparked in various eyes around the room. Jack could feel their energy, a collective heartbeat that began to thrum louder. Then, a voice broke through the anticipation. "And if it doesn't work? If it all falls apart?" Jack felt the tension tighten. "Then we face that too. Because that's life. We'll support each other when we stumble. And if we do, we get back up." The silence stretched out, but this time it felt vibrant, alive. Jack looked around and sensed the room shifting. They were on the edge of something big, a new beginning. Maria squeezed his hand tighter. He could see the wonder in her expression, the belief that had flickered into existence. Then Bill stepped forward, the air around him charged with long-held emotions. "I'm not an easy guy to convince," he grumbled, but Jack noticed his voice softened. "But if you want to try this, I'm in. I've been tired of feeling lost." A ripple of murmurs spread like wildfire, each voice blending into the next. "Me too. I want that. Let's try." Jack's heart soared. They were coming together, breaking the barriers that had kept them in isolation. But even as hope blossomed, a shadow lingered at the back of his mind. What if he faltered? What if this group crumbled under the weight of their pasts? As the laughter and tentative plans filled the room, Jack held onto that worry tightly. It was a reminder of his own fragility. Just then, the door creaked open. A new figure stepped onto the threshold, their presence commanding instant attention. "Is this the place for healing?" the newcomer asked, their voice low yet somehow compelling. Jack's heart raced again. Who was this? What did they want? He glanced at Maria, who looked just as stunned. The moment was electric. Did this stranger bring a new challenge or a chance for even deeper connection? Jack realized he was on the brink of something profound, and he was ready to face it, whatever it would be. Jack swallowed hard, trying to process the weight of the unexpected question. The newcomers stood tall, their presence a magnetic force that drew all attention in the room. They had a look of resilience, weary yet determined, jeans worn but clean, and eyes that seemed to search for answers. People shifted, mumbling among themselves as apprehension folded back in. The energy he'd just built was now mixed with uncertainty and curiosity. Jack felt the pressure return. He knew he had to take command again. Yes, he replied, his voice clear. This is a place for healing. We're just starting to come together, to share our stories and support each other. Who are you? The stranger stepped forward, their gaze unwavering. My name is Alex. I've been carrying a lot of my own burdens, and I've had my share of struggles. I heard about this gathering and thought it might help to be part of a group like this. Jack noticed a softening among the crowd, a hint of camaraderie forming with Alex's words. It was the same feeling he felt when he first stood up to speak. He was reminded of their own hidden stories, the wounds they were beginning to expose. Maria shot Jack a look, her eyes bright with possibilities. She seemed to sense the connection forming, like a frayed thread that was starting to weave together anew. Have you ever been part of something like this? Jack asked, hoping to draw out more of Alex's journey. Alex chuckled lightly, a sound filled with a mix of pain and hope. Once. A long time ago. It didn't end well. But I think we all reach a point where we need to try again, don't we? Even if it feels scary. Exactly, Jack responded, feeling a surge of validation echo in his chest. It can definitely be scary, but that's part of being real, of working toward healing. Standing alone is easy. It's the connection that's hard. The mechanics shifted again, drawn to the conversation. Jack saw Bill nodding, clearly in agreement with Alex's sentiments. Tell us, Alex, Bill said, stepping forward. What made you take that leap of wanting to join us? It's not often folks just walk into a room of strangers searching for help. Alex took a breath, the tension evident, yet something softer sparkled behind it. I watched my father struggle for years, battling his demons. I grew up in the shadows of that struggle. I thought I learned how to escape it, but I realize now that it followed me everywhere. I'm tired of running. A few heads nodded around the room, the shared understanding swirling like a gentle wind. It was a reminder that many battled their own shadows daily. Jack felt this was what they were here for. We need to stop running from our stories, Jack said, feeling the intensity build as he spoke. Hard as it is, they shape who we are. But they don't need to define us. A moment of collective silence followed. He could see expressions shifting, a shared fire igniting in the room. Jack felt the weight of their collective pain, but also the flicker of hope sparking in the corners of their minds. We'll get through this, together, Alex added, a strength beginning to seep through their voice. We help each other find light in the darkness. With that, Jack's heart felt even heavier, but in a good way. They were stitching together a quilt of shared experiences, each patch adding more depth to their healing fabric. But just as Jack prepared to suggest sharing personal stories, he was interrupted by a sudden commotion at the door. A group of people spilled into the room, hasty and frantic, throwing worried glances around. Sorry, is this the support group? One of them shouted, their eyes wide with anxiety. We heard there might be answers here. Our friend barely made it through the night. Jack's heart sank as the air grew thick with urgency and fear. What had they walked into? This was becoming more than just a gathering. It was evolving into something crucial. Stay with us, he called out, holding Alex's gaze firmly, wondering if they had the strength needed for the unfolding storm. What had they really begun? The tension in the room intensified, the murmurs of concern spiraling into a collective worry. Jack felt the rapid beat of his heart drum against his ribcage. Sweat beaded on his brow as he took a step forward, trying to show strength amid the uncertainty. Please, take a breath, Jack urged, his voice steady but gentle. Can someone tell us what is happening? A woman, clearly one of the newcomers, stepped forward. Her face was pale, but her eyes shone with urgency. It's my brother, Mike. He was in a really bad place emotionally and physically. He has been battling addiction, and we just found him unconscious at home. I thought maybe he could find help here. We heard people talk about what you do, and I thought. Her voice cracked, loaded with panic. The weight of her plea settled over them like a thick blanket. Jack glanced at Alex, who appeared equally determined, and Maria, who had tears brimming in her eyes. This was bigger than just sharing stories. It was about saving a life. Okay, Jack said, his voice carrying a calmness he didn't entirely feel. We can help. If you could share more about what he's dealing with, we can figure out the resources and support you all might need. But first, let us have everyone gather in, okay? The more support we have, the better. People instinctively shuffled closer, their bodies aligning in a tight circle. The atmosphere shifted from fear to a sense of unity. Alex moved beside Jack, offering a reassuring presence. "Tell us about Mike," Alex encouraged softly, turning her attention to the woman and urging her to share. Mike always tried to be strong. He was the one everyone relied on, but inside, he was breaking apart, she said, her voice quivering. "I think he just didn't know how to ask for help. And now he might need a lifeline," Jack interjected, his heart aching for the brother sitting alone in a dark room somewhere. "What he needs most is not to feel isolated. We can work together to reach him." People nodded, murmuring encouragements. Jack's thoughts raced. They were on the verge of something powerful here, a mission of humanity that didn't just sit in the realm of group support, it was a call to action. "Let us take a moment, just a moment," Jack said, raising a hand to silence the anxious murmurs. "Can we all just visualize Mike? See him as he is right now, but also as he could be someone able to embrace life again. Imagine the love, the hope that surrounds him." A stillness fell upon the group, their eyes slightly unfocused as if reaching into the depths of what hope could look like. He could feel the energy shift, a tapestry of compassion weaving through the room. "We will reach out to him," Alex said firmly, voicing everyone's thoughts. "He is not alone. And neither are you." Jack nodded, infused with a surge of hope. They were not just a support group anymore. They had united to bridge a gap between despair and possibility. The woman nodded appreciatively. A moment of connection passed among them, a new understanding kindling. But just then, the door swung open again, and another figure stumbled in, a man, disheveled and wild-eyed, gasping for breath. "Please, I need help. I don't know where to go." The room held its breath, the air thick with unspoken fears and the promise of healing. Jack's stomach twisted at what this could mean. They were being pulled into a whirlwind, but he knew this was what they had signed up for. "Let us help him," he urged, heart racing as urgency surged through the circle once more. Could they truly face this storm together? What was about to unfold would test them all like never before. The room buzzed with tension. Jack felt every gaze an electric current binding them all in shared anxiety and hope. The wild-eyed man, a shadow of a life nearly lost, quickly became their focus. His presence reminded them all of their own struggles. "Help is right here," Jack said, his voice steady despite the storm swirling inside. He stepped forward, urging the room to unite in action. "Everyone, let us gather in a circle. This is a moment where we can show what we're made of." As they formed a tighter circle, the newcomer trembled, his hands wringing together. "I don't know how I got here. I've messed up so much." His voice was raw, cracking under the weight of his despair. I want to feel free again." "Freedom begins here," Alex spoke, stepping beside him, her voice calm yet powerful. "This is where we start. You're in a community that wants to help. You don't need to fight this alone." Jack felt something shift in the air. They weren't just witnesses anymore. They were fighters for each other. He raised his hand in an invitation. "What is your name?" "Ethan," the man stammered, looking around at the faces of strangers who somehow felt like allies in this moment of weakness. "Ethan," Jack echoed softly, "you have a voice. You're welcome here. Let us talk about what you're facing. We want to hear you." Ethan hesitated, eyes darting nervously around the circle. "I've struggled with addiction for years. I thought I could manage it, but I can't. I'm scared." Jack could feel the warmth of connection enveloping them, just like the air before a rainstorm. "It's okay to be scared. You just took a huge step by being here. Let us take this one moment at a time." With each word, the fear began to dissolve. This was a turning point. Together, they were crafting a refuge out of the jagged pieces of their past. Another mechanic spoke up. "I get that fear. I lost my brother to addiction. I wish he had a place like this." The room nodded in understanding, the shared pain resonating like a quiet rhythm. Ethan's expression softened as voices formed a web of support, wrapping him in a cocoon of empathy. Jack took a deep breath, feeling the power of their willingness to embrace courage and vulnerability. "So, Ethan," he said, "what do you think would help you the most right now?" "I don't really know, just knowing I'm not facing this alone helps," Ethan admitted, his face etched with the shadows of battles fought and lost. Jack smiled gently. "You're in good company here. Let us take a moment to share what that means for each of us. Maria, would you start?" Maria stepped forward, the light from the overhead lamps glinting in her eyes. "I lost my father to the demons of addiction, too. I spent years wishing he'd seek the help he needed. I want you to know it's never too late to ask for help. Jack watched as her words bonded the room, a bouquet of empathy, blooming in the shared agony of loss and the struggle to rediscover light. The crowd began to circle through, each voice adding strength to Ethan's tentative step toward healing point one by one. They shared their own stories, echoes of sadness, laughter, and triumph. It was cathartic. With every story, the anxieties that had once loomed over them began to lift, replaced with understanding and familiarity. As moments stretched out, Jack silently thanked every person there for choosing authenticity over shame. In their raw honesty, they were transforming one another, just as Jack had hoped. Then came the most poignant moment. Bill, typically stern and reserved, nodded with equal parts courage and vulnerability. I've lost sight of who I am, trapped in the fear of my past mistakes. This community is what I needed to realize that together, we can hold each other accountable and shoulder our burdens. A wave of warmth flooded over Jack. There it was, the unity he'd envisioned, woven together through the very wounds they had dared to share. Ethan's eyes shone with unshed tears. I thought nobody understood, but here, I feel seen, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I see now that hope is real, and we're going to cultivate that hope. Together, Jack added, his heart swelling. Starting today, this is our new chapter. We will meet every week to lift each other up. Together, we reshape our stories. As applause erupted in the room, hands reached out offering support, creating connections, infusing a sense of collective determination. Jack realized he was not just saving Ethan. They were saving each other, redefining vulnerability as a source of strength. The storm outside slowed to a drizzle as the rays of sunlight peered through the windows, illuminating their gathered faces, washed in radiance and promise. Jack knew the journey ahead would still be complex. But he also understood now together, they would embrace every stumble, lean in through every setback, and forge ahead. With his heart full and overflowing, Jack knew this moment was only the beginning. It was no longer just about overcoming their pasts. It was about building a brighter future, their future. And as they collectively dared to hope, the weight of isolation melted away, revealing a path paved with understanding. Jack realized they had turned a corner together, no longer strangers but comrades in healing. As the meeting came to a close, Jack looked around, his heart racing. Thank you all for being here, for sharing your stories. Let us take this momentum and commit to being there for one another. And at that moment, he knew this was just the start of something remarkable. If you felt inspired by this journey of transformation, now is the time to show your support. You need to subscribe now to make sure you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will uplift and empower you. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm and keep this amazing community growing. Comment below with your reactions, thoughts, and feelings about this inspiring ending. Your voice matters. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread hope and resilience.